Hello and welcome to another episode of the Testing Peers. Tonight I am joined by...
Can't believe you didn't know our names.
Yeah, I've forgotten your names completely. Fame's gone to my head.
Well, it's a Simon show.
The Simon Show. Welcome to the Simon Show.
Go on, introduce it as that. We'll all correct you.
With Simon subordinates. Yeah.
The award-winning Simon Pryor show.
With me, the star of your show. Hello, other people.
And some other weirdos.
Where are these minions? Right, let's start again. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Testing Peers. As always, I'm joined by the usual crew. Chris.
Hey there.
Russell.
Hello.
David.
Hiya.
And I'm Simon. As always, we are sponsored by Saffron QA. Saffron QA are specialists in testing recruitment and provide a range of bespoke recruitment services to organisations across the UK. Brilliant. For further details about Saffron QA, please see the show notes or visit saffronqa.co.uk. As you can see, I'm on form tonight. Today, we're going to talk about our dream jobs. But before we dive into that, Russell, what do you have for us?
Yeah, so I was going to ask you about kind of what's been your favourite browsers over the course of your careers, because of problems with browsers and getting into kind of the tools this evening. But no, I thought that might just be too exciting for you. You might not be able to just keep yourself riveted to that one. I was going to say, so what's the most exciting thing you've bought for yourself? So when you treat yourself to something and it's just for you, your benefit, but what's the most exciting thing you've bought for yourself? I'm curious.
I'm about to buy myself a coffee machine will be my thing when I get that.
Coffee machine.
It's going to be in my office and my room's going to smell of coffee all the time. It's
Is
just
it bean
for
to
me.
cup?
Yes, bean to cup.
Yeah.
No one else in my house drinks coffee, so it's all for me.
Milk
I don't have
built
milk
in?
in coffee, don't be a fool.
Sorry, crazy guy.
And it's just going to be my special, delicious coffee first thing in the morning and maybe later on, depending on how my day's going. And it's going to be just this warm aroma. Black Friday deals. If I'm putting an awful out-of-date timestamp on when this episode goes out, they've got nice big reductions on the coffee machines, so I'm going to buy it this week.
Is there any site you recommend? Just even for the next year's Black Friday?
Well, I discovered the one I wanted to get was a DeLonghi, so I was looking on DeLonghi, but I did look at other retailers who are available.
I think I might have mentioned my purchase before. I remember buying Lego, and I bought the Back to the Future DeLorean Lego car. I think I mentioned that on another episode. But yeah, that was probably the most exciting thing that I chose and bought myself.
I'm actually really struggling to think back to the last thing that I actually specifically bought just for myself. Other than when we used to buy specific DVDs of, I know, things like wrestling or particular films I was into at the time, I've not bought myself anything big for a while. Yeah, it's been all about...
Doesn't have to be big, Simon.
Well, yeah, I know. But I'm trying to think. I can't think of anything specific. I think the last thing I might have bought myself might have been my PlayStation 2, which was a long time ago.
That was, oh my God, they're two generations
exactly.
ago.
Yourself more
Three
time.
generations ago.
I know, I need to do. I probably buy books occasionally that I want to read, but again, I'm struggling to think of something specifically that I've bought that I've got very excited about.
Another exciting thing for me was bought this year was my greenhouse. Because I know, how like the potato
updates.
Buying the greenhouse has been a great asset. Having to manage.
How are the potatoes, David?
I haven't got potatoes this year. That bed has now had dahlias in it. They've been blooming nicely and being brought into the house.
They won't taste so delicious.
They won't. But cut flowers are always good.
So can I guess, Russell, what yours might be? Is it something to do with the Cobra?
I was tempted by the Cobra. Yes, that is definitely something exciting. But I still haven't got that arrived yet. So it's not that exciting. I was actually going to say another car I bought after kind of being ill for a while and getting an insurance payout and things. I should treat myself to a car. So I've been commuting via a motorbike to work and things like that. And I felt very insecure and I bought myself a car. And that was probably the most exciting thing I bought because I bought it brand new, paid for it all off, no debt to go with it. And it was kind of the car I dreamt of for 5 or 6 years. But it wasn't a crazy car. I dream of an Aston Martin, really. It was kind of a more reasonably priced car, but it was still a decent car. So that was kind of probably the most exciting. I'm looking forward, though, to that Cobra you mentioned, Simon. I can't pretend otherwise. Should we talk about our topic for today?
Yeah, so we just alluded there that there may be different levels of dream cars, for instance. So where do we start on dream jobs? Do we start at the absolute pinnacle, or do we start with something that's just slightly in the distance that we want to reach?
Or maybe if you had a different one when you were a child.
Well, that might be a good place to start, actually.
Yeah, start with that childhood.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to be a sweetie shop man.
See, I had you down as a train driver.
No. Where I grew up, we did not have a train line. So trains didn't float my boat. But sweetie shops, now you think about all of the different sweets. You could weigh them out and get all the little bits. That was special. And you might know that I like chocolate and sweet things. That might have come out every once in a while. So the thought of working where those things were available all the time really appealed to me. And I got to half live that life because when I was sort of sixth form age, sort of 17, 18, I worked at a Jim Garahy's fudge kitchen in Cambridge. And so I got to make fudge and eat as much as I liked, which normally in those circumstances means that people get sick of the stuff and we don't eat very much of it. Like Cadbury's are renowned for people in their factory not being able to eat very much because they've been told they can have as much as they like, but they kind of wear down. Not this sweet tooth guy, though. I had so much of that delicious, sweet, creamy fudge. It was fantastic. What a good time. My teeth didn't say thank you.
What was your favourite flavour?
Oh, well, we made one called strawberries and cream. So we made two fudges. We made the strawberry fudge first, which is where you make like a nice white vanilla fudge, which means you've got to do it at a slightly lower temperature than a toffee fudge because you don't want to burn the sugar. And then you actually just pour punnets of strawberries in, real fresh ones. And so it goes this delicious, creamy pink color. Then we'd lay that out on this huge marble table, quarter-ton marble table. And then you'd do loaf the fudge with your little things. I'm acting it out as if it doesn't.
Podcast gold.
As that one was drying, you made the next fudge, which was like a creamy vanilla fudge. And so it was a two-tone fudge. So when you made your slices of the fudge, it was pink on the inside and white on the outside. And it was very delicious.
Hungry now.
I want fudge, yeah.
How about you, Russell?
So for a long period of time, I wanted to be an architect. So I even went to university to study it. But from a very young age, 7 or 8, that's kind of what I dreamt of being. As exciting as that, the idea of designing structures and buildings and making pretty things that people interact with and use, and that was functional, that provided shelter and a purpose, sounded pretty cool to me.
Do you still use those skills now, in your new house and designing things?
A little bit of the design, spatial awareness, construction, structural knowledge and stuff, but not that much. I dream of one day, not job-wise, but of building my own, designing my own house. I'm going to start with the car, then build up to a house.
Start from the garage and then go to the house. For me, the first thing I remember really wanting to become was an optician, bizarrely. I think it tied into my scientific background. I was almost convinced that I would do it. And then for some reason, I decided against it and became sort of biologist and stuff. So yeah, that was my first thought because it fascinated me, lenses, and it ties into my science background, I think, and the eye as well, which is biology. So
I remember at junior school, I still remember vividly being in a sort of a year 5, year 6 class where they were asking what we wanted to do when we grew up. And I remember I wasn't the best at football, nowhere near the best at football, but I was determined I was going to be a footballer. And I remember the teacher saying to me about how many A levels and GCSEs I would need to qualify to become a footballer. And I was just like, that makes no sense. Surely it's not about the qualifications. So I was set, I'm going to be a footballer. And then obviously that never worked out. And then it was, I wanted to join the RAF as an intelligence officer. I wanted to go into that. So that was definitely a dream. I wanted to go in and sort of be able to sort of look at maps and stuff and be able to help with the intelligence and stuff to find enemies or whatever the process was they were doing at the time. And that never worked out either. So I learned quite early on that dream jobs never really materialized.
Was that because you stopped though? Or was it because doors were closed to you? I don't know.
It felt like doors were closed rather than me. I think definitely it felt doors were closed.
So what did that then inspire you to dream of in future? So where did you move on to? So you're no longer a dream to be the intelligence officer. What's your current aspiration?
My current aspiration? So
where do you kind of see the near future? Or do you want to go straight to where would you be in the idealistic world that you could do anything without any constraints or any challenges at all?
Well, I think
you want to be president of the United States?
No. Definitely not. I think if we were sort of taking it one step at a time and looking into the near future to start with, I really do see a dream I've had for a few years now is I want to be able to build my own team. I want to be able to build not necessarily a center of excellence, but build a team that are all passionate, driven in the world of quality and testing, and help improve the process across a whole organization. And that's my next dream to look towards. My next objective really is to get to that point where I can build that practice and have a whole group of people that have the same passion about it as I do in improving quality and making sure we release high quality products. That's probably a near-term dream rather than a longer-term dream. I haven't looked that far ahead as far as what I want to do longer term and think about no restriction. But what about you, Chris?
I was asked this question when I was interviewing on one of my many occasions whilst interviewing for new jobs and during this pandemic. And near term and probably long term, I think this sort of high level thing for jobs stands in that I want to work with people that want to do stuff better. And I want to work with people who want to let me be a part of making that stuff better. Now that's super broad, but ultimately those things are kind of two of the most important things to me about work, because the whole idea of continuous improvement, but also involvement and collaboration are the things that are really important to me. And that will manifest itself in different ways and different places wherever you are. And I don't think the ideal job necessarily exists there for me, but I think if you're working in those sorts of scenarios, there's probably a good chance that you can make that become something that is something you're really happy with. I want to work with people always. If you put me in a silo that was very quiet, I think something bad would happen. Interacting with people, working with people, I think is a strength of mine, and trying to make things better is a drive always for me. That isn't a particular role. Well, I mean, what a good time to say I found myself in a software career.
David, what about you?
For me, I would echo the same thing. In the sort of short near term, I want to surround myself with people that have a sort of shared idea, that want the best quality, the best products that going forwards. And echoing Chris's, it's a collaborative thing. We all, it isn't just one person. It's a collaboration with everyone that's involved with it. Giving that sort of idea of quality engineering and building quality from the start is what I really want to achieve. Educate people, especially within our company, to get on board with that idea of the best quality. And I think we're getting there, but that's what I'd like to do. Russell?
Been very similar, probably the group of us, really. Not dissimilar to everything you just said. So to me, it's about building quality-based teams, helping build people up and grow them into kind of rounded individuals. That's developers, testers, BAs, you name the role. But to think about how they could build quality solutions and to guide that, to help see people grow in their roles and their careers, become better versions, and to work in that sort of collaborative team. So I kind of like what I'm doing. It's the honest answer. I would love, obviously, kind of more engagement, more buy-in, more actually impact maybe the community as well. Not just necessarily the workplace. In fact, my company is encouraging me to do things outside the workplace that I quite like. So it's kind of helping beyond just simply the four walls and beyond just testers. They're kind of the key things for me and my kind of aspirations and current sort of thing. And to get the maker tester kind of thing, which is just trying to get the next cohort really of people into testing so that we can kind of instill quality. And, testers, the role is changing, always will do. It was never static, it never will be. So just helping kind of get those people landed, get it started, and that sort of thing is kind of, I guess, what I look to do.
I would echo those points as well, especially the collaborative. I always aim to make sure that the test group has everyone else's back, so we share ideas as much as possible and we have each other's backs. I would also say that finding the testing peers and also Ministry of Test and other channels, that finding out more information about those sort of things certainly can help as well, because you gain ideas and can bring them into the company and what you're actually doing, rather than just being static, and because that never helps either you, the group, or even the company if you just stay static.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think that's a big element for me as well. Is that, like, as you've said, the testing role is evolving. It's helping that whole coaching concept of coaching testing, which we talked about in a previous episode. That is a big key element of where I want to go with what I'm doing. I want to be able to build that practice of not just building testers themselves, but building people that can go out and coach others on what testing is and build that practice. And also, as Russell said about the maker tester thing, I think for me, my dream job would be absolutely involved closely with universities in helping shape the future cohorts of testers or people's awareness of testing as a practice into the future workforce. I see a role where quality is evolving to be more out there for everybody's access and understanding. I know there's very much that view in more modern practices of quality is everyone's responsibility, but I think I see my role in the future of helping actually establish that as a standard practice wherever I can. And I'd go even longer term. I think, we've all got very similar visions on that, and I'll say this on the podcast, but the future, we've talked about it jokingly before, but having that consultancy of some kind, the Testing Peers consultancy, that does sound like an out there dream, but we're all in careers that are wanting to drive that kind of process. So who knows? Never say never.
Yeah, I think doing it right is an important thing for me. And I think, if we did ever do that direction of a Testing Peers consultancy type solution, I know that you've got my back and vice versa, and we've got a very similar vision. So I think there's definitely some things to worth exploring as time goes on for us.
Well, the thing is, though, we do have a general vision, because actually, I don't think we've yet really had a disagreement on the podcast yet. So although we've got varied experiences, we've got shared values.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I would agree with that, definitely.
Did we also mention PeersCon?
We haven't mentioned PeersCon.
We didn't, but that's a good point.
It must have been one of David's things to kind of do a conference. I know that he was trying to before pandemic. I've done one. Chris has helped out with a couple of them at least.
I may technically be hosting a test bash in the future. So
there you go. And you've definitely done a lot of internal conferences, and you speak at a lot of conferences, Simon. So we've got some experience between us all. Definitely maybe something to watch this space for. Who knows what next year will bring in our New Year's resolutions, eh?
I think all of our dream roles really would be that community interaction as a big part of it, and being able to raise the awareness and share what our knowledge with the community more than we are doing now. So yeah, absolutely. The chance to run a conference and give back even more would definitely be up there with the things to achieve.
You heard it here first, folks.
It's not just us speaking, by the way. It's actually encouraging you, the community, the listeners, the other people around us to...
Oh, I had a whole day of talk set up.
Yeah, we'll do the Simon track, and then we'll have everyone.
Yeah, we'll have the Simon Day.
Which will be the most popular, yeah.
All right, put them on mute. No.
Just sort of one thing, in your current roles, is there anything that, okay, might not be your dream job, but what aspects of your current roles do you really like and would like to keep in future roles?
Good question.
Inspiring people, I guess. So helping kind of grow the people's careers, the paths, inspiring them, coaching them, as I mentioned. That's the bit I really want to keep. I don't want to be without people to line manage, I think is ultimately probably the point.
I would agree with that. And I'm certainly enjoying at the moment the community that's being built internally and the attitude towards testing, having things like our Friday afternoon test parties where we exploratory test areas of the system and have guests come in and do workshops like Ben Doan did recently on recognition, and just that whole community feel of we're trying to inspire people and grow that. And that's not just me. I've now got a team of people that are on board and doing it with me as well. And building that's something I'm loving at the moment as far as the attitude towards testing is changing. There's definitely a lot more fun in the work we're doing at the present, which is definitely a positive. And I'd like to try and keep that going.
Well, you definitely been talking very positively about your experiences of those things, which is really nice to see. For me, I think one thing that I really appreciate in my current role is that not only am I being asked my opinions and experience of things by people who are, in my experience, not people that would typically have asked for a tester's input and experience, but also I'm invited to be honest and not hold back on things. So if I see something that I think is fundamentally wrong, I'm allowed to call it out. It's a safe environment. That is a cultural thing that is so refreshing for me, because often, I don't know if it's been the case for you, but you have had to sort of second guess whether or not you can be truly honest about these things or not, for fear of either offending people. And I'm not saying you should just deliver calling people's work as rubbish, but for fear of those things, or for fear of being told you're out of line or that these things are wrong. And actually, if, as I've stated previously, like the whole point of what we're trying to do is make stuff better. It's important that we've got a safe space to be able to share and talk about these things. And if I think something is fundamentally wrong, just as much as if it's something that should be celebrated, I should have the freedom to be able to do that. And not just myself, which should be something that we model for our colleagues and our teams to say, this is a safe space and we encourage you to share and give your opinions about things. Like, did you read Cassandra, her recent blog on George Foreman quality heuristics? And what she put down was, like, there's a line in the advert where he says, it's so good, he put his name on it. She talks about products and say, like, the product that you're working on, is that really good enough that you would put your name on it? Were you proud about it? Do you want to shout and talk about it? And it's a really nice, simple heuristic to think about and say, I want this thing to be so good that I would put my name to that I would really like that. That's how much I care about the stuff that I'm working with. And I want people to feel enthused and passionate and excited about the stuff they're working on to make it better, so that I would be posting stuff online, singing from the rooftops about this product, because I genuinely believe it's a good thing, that it's something that will help people, that it is a positive thing, not because my company said, share these words on your socials because it will help the company and you'll get a better bonus. Like, if I actually care about the thing I work about and how good it is, how much better credibility is that? How much more rewarding is that for me, but for the company as well?
Agreed. And that's a conflict I had previously that I had to change because I didn't buy into the product.
I'm exactly the same. I left a company before because I didn't believe in the product. I couldn't see the point in it. It was, in my mind, frippery and what didn't better the world in my mind. So therefore, I wouldn't want to put my name to it. I wasn't particularly proud of it. And so therefore, I did leave it.
It's the thing, though, isn't it? When it's mandated, it takes away kind of a lot of that desire, that want. If you have to, it makes you really look. If you get your people to promote your company because they want to, then you're on to a winner. If you have to give an objective to your people to say you will do 3 shares on LinkedIn a year, something is probably going wrong. And you need to kind of make that natural versus kind of thing. So you need to create that culture, as Chris mentioned, to get people to want to do. And sometimes you've got to hire the right people that are a bit more social media savvy. But if you force everyone to do it by one medium, you're kind of missing a trick as well. There's Twitter, there's LinkedIn, there's TikTok, there's goodness knows what else is still out there. Racket, Snapchat, and I'm going to show my age. There are even things like emails still going around. I don't know.
I think you can still post letters as well somewhere.
Yeah, right. Catch COVID doing that.
I think what's coming out of this discussion for me is that dream jobs, regardless of what the end goal is for everyone, there seems to be a core set of things that make up a dream job. And one of them is the people you're working with. One of them is the culture you have, the product that you're working on. So those 3 things, I think we could all be in a place, and I suppose, and the ability to have an impact. That challenge and being able to impact something, and for me, that's important. I think those 4 things.
I would also add that the values of the company reflect the values of ourselves, our person.
Yeah,
we have to be personally involved in both the company and the product, I would say.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It is interesting because there can be some products and other things out there that completely maps to our goals, our aspirations, what we want to do, but something about it is toxic, something about it is wrong, something is unhealthy, be it the culture, be it the demands. And all it takes is one of those things to be off kilter, not all of them, to take what could be a dream job and make it quite a negative job.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
Even within a company, if something changes, you can be in almost the best job in the world, but a reorganization or a change to the product or change of direction can suddenly make the whole environment toxic. There could be an imbalance. And so therefore, however good it is at this moment, things can change completely and you don't believe in what you're actually doing then.
We could be one of those people making the decisions that makes that impact to people around us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because not all decisions are going to be like 100% people. And we have to learn as leaders to accept that.
And that's a good point. That concept of the dream job is almost a point in time thing. Because like you say, things can change. I think we've probably all experienced it where we've been in a job, we've been so happy. Everything's like, I never see myself leaving almost. And I was in that in my first job. It was 10, 11 years in before things started to turn to where I wasn't comfortable anymore. And it's just, I thought I was going to be a lifer. I didn't think I was ever going to leave. But then, like you say, something changes and suddenly it's not what you were happy with before. And then you have to work out the solution.
But it can even be things like your life changes. So therefore you marry, you have kids. And if the company isn't as responsive to a work-life balance, then that can just change your thing. It could be fantastic salary, it could be fantastic product. But if they're not giving you the support that you need, then actually something's missing.
Yeah, there's life events, but there's kind of global events. It's kind of what's on people's minds right now, the climate. Perhaps. Is your company climate responsible? 5 years ago, most people didn't so much care. But I know people now that would leave a job because they didn't feel it was taking the climate kind of thing seriously or wasn't acting towards them in a positive light. Let's say their executives were flying around the world frivolously, that sort of thing.
Well, and we've had a global event in the last 2 years. And I think a lot of companies have shown their true colours in some respects with how they've responded to that. And companies that you thought were supportive of their staff are suddenly asking them for all to go back to the office as soon as the pandemic's cleared. And it's definitely that, you're right, some things can change on a very differing scale that can cause an impact for people.
And I think you're right, the pandemic has highlighted, some people have relished working from home, other people are looking forward to going back into the office. So it depends on what the company dictates. For those people that want to work from home more and the company's saying you have to come into the office 4 days a week, then actually people are more likely to go, I'll go for a company that I can work from home more.
I mean, I've moved countries as a result of being able to work remotely 100%. So yeah, that's very true.
So we're talking kind of the things that we'd like. I guess, is there a job role or something that we kind of would aspire to? Is there something that we kind of envisage? I mentioned the President of the United States earlier. I don't think any of us have that aspiration. Is it running your own consultancy as kind of thing, or being part of a management? Is that the thing? Is it to be running a coffee shop? To be quite blunt, out of the IT world. Yeah, that might be Chris's coffee and cake.
I'm not a big cake guy, to be honest with you. Jaffa cakes, but not the other kinds. Like
running a Jaffa cake and coffee shop.
On the jobs types of things. Actually, Simon and I might have talked about this the other day because
we may have done.
What we did, I mentioned there like 4 different things that I'd sort of been considering as like ideal kinds of roles. I said I like the idea of doing training / coaching / consulting as my role. But with those things, I need to be continuously learning, because if I'm the font of all knowledge, everyone's in trouble. But I also like the idea of head of QA, head of engineering or something like that. That seems quite fun to sort of like try and be the one at the seat of the table of quality in an organization, whatever that might look like. I'd like to try something that maybe wouldn't be specifically testing-y, but it's still within tech and stuff, just to sort of see how that could work out. I've dipped my foot in product management, product ownership, Scrum Mastery and stuff as well, but just to see, like, why not? It's something different, right? Then my wild card is the idea of maybe like trying to write a book, and not like non-fiction. I would probably write something so abstract and bizarre that like 3 of my friends might read it. I don't even trust you 3 would read it.
So like the history of the Jaffa cake, something like that.
No, even that's too close to facts. I mean, it could be in the adventures of the Jaffa cakes around the.
I could imagine you being one of those people that writes one of those old-fashioned adventure books where you get to a certain page and you get the option to choosing to go to page 46 for the next step.
I tried doing those as a kid. Yeah, I'd like to do something that's very abstract, like the kind of dream worlds that are created by like Tolkien. Those sorts of imaginary worlds that you sort of grow, and there's so many like hidden threads and like invented languages and species and things. Like a whole like imaginary world would be great. I don't actually back myself to being able to do that, but I love the idea of it.
You just start small and just write your ramblings.
Yeah.
I think roles for me, one thing that really appeals, other than the consultancy thing, which I mentioned earlier, one thing that really appeals is getting to that, rather than moving to just a head of quality, but eventually moving into either a CTO role or a sort of head of engineering, but coming from a quality background and allowing that quality part to still impact me at that point, so that there's definitely someone from a quality perspective that's at the right level to voice it and show the concerns and make sure it's advocated for, alongside all the other disciplines that need to be advocated for, but making sure quality has a voice at the more senior levels.
I don't aspire to be at any particular level. I just want to make sure that I am able to evangelize or talk about or have influence about the quality of products at the level that I am actually at, and can share that knowledge either through coaching, mentoring, teaching, or whatever, or just through my management skills and talking to people and influencing that way.
I find it really hard to answer, because as I think about
Why you
it,
ask the rest of us first?
yes, quite. That's usually the way this works, isn't it? The ones that we can't answer, we ask. We go, I hope no one asks that question. Right, I'll ask it so I can think longest. What I aspire, I guess, is to kind of just be happy. It's very bizarre. I don't want to be cleaning the floors. I don't want to be head of. They're all things that I'd happily do, but ultimately happiness, comfortable life is kind of ultimately what I probably should care about and motivate myself towards. I've seen that it doesn't matter what your job title is. There's generally someone above you. There's generally something that's controlling whatever it is. So you become the head of, and then there's the MD. You become the CTO, there's the CEO. You become CEO, then there's the board. You become the board member, then there's the shareholders, or there's the owner. There's generally always one. And if you're the owner, then there's just, I don't know, is there anything above the owner? Sometimes there must be.
I would worry that if you were the owner, you'd end up not getting to do the job that you started doing and having all that fun.
If you're an owner without involvement, then yeah, it's kind of, it's not, you're not involved in it, so to speak. But it's, to me, I guess my ultimate aim is to stop worrying about where I want to be in work and just actually make sure that I've got the right time to enjoy the work or whatever level happens to be that gives me the comfortable living and do it. And it's a lovely diplomatic answer. If someone came along and offered me like some crazy type weird thing, I'd probably still say yes if it gave me the other things I value. But I've now got to the point where it's the other values probably weigh more on me than titles do.
Yeah,
and it's interesting. But to Chris's point about other roles, I like to be in IT. I enjoy IT, but if I could get by sweeping the floors, that kept me happy, and the great outdoors, probably do that. I'm a bit weird.
Yeah, I mean, there's a part of me that I'd love to go back to actually doing the testing and spending my days doing exploratory testing. Not so much the automation side, but just exploring products and finding issues that no one else is finding. That still appeals, and I'd love to have more time to do that. So
that would be in your dream job then, to do more?
Well, yeah, maybe having the best of both and being able to do a bit of what I fancy when I fancy, as far as testing goes. Yeah.
Well, I think that comes to the end. Thank you very much, everyone, for sharing that. I think it's been a really interesting, and I've really enjoyed having this discussion about our roles and what we see in those. I hope you've enjoyed as much listening to us. If you'd like to get in touch, then we are available on most of the social media channels. That's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Good Pods. Please look for us at Testing Peers. Please contact us on email at contactus@testingpeers.com. And we're also available on Patreon. And if you'd like to give us some money to help support us. Talking of supporting, then we also thank Ben at Saffron QA. Please check the show notes for details of that. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time.
For now, it's goodbye from the Testing Peers.
Goodbye.